So, Sally Lowe, welcome to Breakfast with Bobsy.
Well, this is my honor, pleasure. I mean, it's a hidden secret, and I'm
Isn't
glad
it?
that I found you.
To have a place in Hong Kong with no cars,
Wonderful.
in one of the oldest neighborhoods, in fact.
Well, I'm glad
Possession
to-
Street is just down the road, and and it's one of the older neighborhoods because it has a lot of water underneath it. There's a lot of fresh water running down from the mountains, from the peak. So it was the earliest part that was inhabited, so collectively known as Taiping Shan.
Well, it's not far from my office, and I found a new
hangout.
Which is absolutely great.
You're welcome. We open 8 in the morning, and it's a good place to come and work. Wherever you sit, there's plugs. So
Well, I noticed-
if you want to
I
plug in your
noticed,
laptop
all
or
the
your...
young with their
Yes.
computers, and it's a good hangout.
So welcome. You don't need much introduction in Hong Kong.
I'm just a dinosaur. I think I've been here nearly 50 years. That can't be true, but it is
50.
nearly 50 years.
So let's go back to the beginning then.
Yeah.
You arrived here from England?
In 1967, in the time of the riots.
Ooh.
And I'd never been further east than Rome. And I had to say to my trustees when they picked up the Times newspaper and it said, bomb outside the Hilton Hotel, Hong Kong. And they said, are you really serious about going? And I said, yes, I'm going to visit my girlfriend. And
There was no romantic attachments at that time?
Oh, well, she was a cover.
Ah.
She was a cover.
Yes, so Bombs 1967, but it was a cover-up, was it?
Yes, because I was actually coming to have a look-see. At that time, I was going.
And all the
out
handsome
with-
soldiers.
No. Although they were the Coldstream Guards were here on the border, and so I was 21 and or a bit younger, I think, and it was all very exciting. And Kayin, my sister-in-law, in those days was sort of the cover, and I really came to meet Robert.
Oh, you did?
So I came to see Hong Kong, and
You'd met previously?
oh yes.
In England?
Yes.
Right.
Well, I have to go back and tell you the start of the story
Okay.
because my sister and I were very privileged. We had our own news house at the back of my mother's house in Pont Street. So we felt very grown up. So at the age of 18, and I think we were fairly sophisticated in those days compared to the young today. And perhaps it's because my father died when I was very young, and so we were brought up by nannies, and we had our news house, and we entertained a lot. In those days, it was black tie dinner parties, and I was. I don't know why, but we went round with a group of friends. So we had a group of friends, and so I wasn't holding hands seriously with anybody. And it didn't seem to, one would go out, as I said, you go to restaurants, you go to art galleries, the theatre. And one of my friends said, gosh, you must meet this young man. He's amazing. Who's just come to join our office. And this was Robin. And he was an article clerk, which meant as a Chinese gentleman, he went to the city with a bowler hat, a rolled umbrella, and a carnation. He looked,
Wow.
I know he looked like Oddjob from 007. Anyway, we met, and I'm not going to, you won't believe it, but we met.
Love at first sight.
No, not at all. But we met, and at his house in South Kensington, where when we opened the door, there was an armour with a plaque right down the back. And we were ushered into the drawing room on the first floor, where we were given tea and watercress sandwiches. Very British.
With the crust cut off.
With the crust cut off, of course. Of course. Anyway, over the years, actually I was only about then, I suppose I was 17 and a half, 18. And Robert was in his early 20s, and so we all had a lot of fun. But he had such style. He had such style. I mean, he loved to entertain because he had a housekeeper, and he liked to go partying, Annabelle's, you name it. So it was all very jolly.
And he'd originally come out of Hong Kong, had he?
He had been. I mean, his sister Gaia, who's very well known today as one of our leading designers. She and Robert were at university, and in England they were at school.
Right.
So
right.
Robert had been in England, so he was
Right.
very much
Yes.
very British, very British. And he had enjoyed boarding school, and then university, and then the city, and he had a really good life. And he and I always gravitated together. It didn't matter who I was with. Or he could have been with Princess Lisnowski or some girl that the embassy always thought that Robert and Cayenne were very eligible to meet, people that they had to entertain. So they were lauded by quite a lot of the embassies. So that Robert met all these Spanish girls, and so of course he, as a gentleman, took them out, and they were very decorative. Anyway, as I said, he and I had a lot in common. He collected old master drawings. I collected, because of my mother, I collected, my twin sister, we collected, modern and contemporary lithographs. I mean, we couldn't afford very much.
Picasso would have been contemporary back then, right?
We had
Oh,
Picasso.
Picasso. ¿Qué pasa?
Well, we did. My godfather had a very large collection and lived part of the time in south of France, and he was a friend of or a collector of Picasso. So every so often, a birthday or Christmas, we would get a lithograph. But I mean, still in those days, that was, it was so. And then, so Robert and I, sort of continued our good friendship. Now, the amazing thing was, of all coincidence, Robert's brother went to the same school as my brother, which is Millfield, and so I used to go down for open days. And I suppose the romance started when he said, "Would you like a lift to Parents' Day?" And I sat in his open, I think it was a Triumph, and had my hair blown everywhere as he drove me down to Somerset, and I had a hat box on my knee. And that's when it all started. But we were good friends, and then when the riots came in 1967...
So you came to visit him?
I came to visit him, yeah. So, that's when everything changed. And we became... Because he was called back. I mean, he never really, I think, he never really could be spending his life in the city. But he never really realized that his father was the last comprador. Comprador means Chinese manager in the bank, but they bring the business to the bank, but they guarantee the business. So when the riots came in 1967, you can imagine, I mean, the father had taken the role off his grandfather, and so there were many old families, many companies that were like, there was an aviation company, there was a refrigerating company. Robert, aged 26, came back to Hong Kong to sort out because there was a run on the bank, So, you know, all the properties and everything, they had to dispose of them because everybody sugared off. Excuse my pun, but they left. And so Robert had to sort that out.
Step in and
Yes.
roll his
So it
sleeves
was
up.
tough for him. So,
Yeah.
you know, he thought he was coming back for 6 weeks. And he never went back to live in London again. But
Did he regret that somehow?
no, I mean, it was a
It was a duty, wasn't it?
It was a duty.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that particular time, I mean, it was heartbreaking for him because he had to, one, dispose of the family assets to cover the banks, and at a time when you could give everything away. The American banks left Hong Kong. That's how bad it was. And so actually, funny enough, having experienced that time all through the last 30, 40 years, 50 years nearly, of ups and downs in Hong Kong, I think to myself, this is nothing.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely nothing
Yes.
compared to that particular time.
Scary times, right?
Scary times.
And then you also had communist China.
Communist China
lurking there,
were-
right?
There was definitely, you know, a feeling that the communists might come over the border. The Brits were doing really well in terms of, we had curfew. So, you know, we still had lots of fun times. I mean, Robert's family had a boat and he lent it to the British Army so they could have R&R and enjoy themselves. And we'd go to off to picnics. He'd take some of his staff. They did live in rather a grand manner. They had a mansion on Kennedy Road, which now is Hopewell Centre. I mean, Robert started working in merchant banking, and in those days, you know, you had a guaylo, or I shouldn't use that word. You had a
Foreigner.
foreigner as your boss,
Yes.
and weren't exactly treated with respect. Mixed marriage, we got married. Robert
It
asked.
was rather unusual back then, wasn't it?
Very unusual. I remember being in a taxi and we corresponded very, very much. Talking on the telephone was difficult because it sounded as if you were talking through a washing machine. So literally, I mean, you go, I mean, it was very, I mean,
Hello, hello.
oh, and then did you say this? And then there was swish wash.
Yeah.
So we wrote to each other. So it's quite romantic. And yes, I think on the third page, having spoken about several things, he said, no, I looked at the feng shui and this is the date. So, you know, not really when you marry me. This is the date that I think. And we hadn't discussed marriage, but anyway, he had asked me when I came in 1967, he had asked me almost the day I arrived on South Bay Beach. And I said, we'll
Steady on, old chap.
he said, well, I'm flattered, but let's spend some time together.
Yeah.
And then he didn't ask me again. So that was, you know, and I was here for 6 weeks at that time. Then I left, and I organised. We got married in Queen's Chapel with the Queen's permission, and which was very nice. A small wedding, very, very small. And when we came back to Hong Kong, as I said, it was the time, the riots had sort of subsided a little bit, but it was still troubled times, and there was curfew. So no wedding celebrations or anything, which I was quite glad of. But when it came to Chinese New Year, I remember Robert said, this is the time when we have to go and visit friends and relations.
Right.
And I remember he said, well, we've got to leave about 7:30, and I thought, wow, that's very early. And I said, isn't that rather rude? And he said, no, they'll all be waiting. And we went to 40 houses in one day. And everyone, and I had like a Gladstone bag full of different coloured lycees, and I hadn't really got to grips with it. And we went I remember the first house next to the Kennedy Road house was the Lee Hyson Avenue, our next door neighbours. I remember going, and then there were about 25 people there. So I was told, had to give out the niceties to everybody that was there.
Whoa.
So anyway, it was fascinating.
Yes.
I could write a book.
And you should.
I've had such an exciting time. The chapters in my life
Yes.
and the turning points that, I've learned so much. And I think I'm used to sort of overriding what I was going to say, but about my admiration for the family. But, Robert's never pointed to Shewson Hill or Electric Road or the waterfront and said, well, we owned all this. He's never looked back. And that's been such an amazing, for me. I admired so much, just taking things as they come. Of course, we had our young life together, and children came, which was wonderful. But my mother-in-law was a very special. I was brought up with my twin sister. And I have to say the confidence I have in life, and possibly the confidence to come to Hong Kong and marry when it was very young. There were the Shaw family, the Fung family, and us. I think we led the field in mixed marriages. But the confidence that I have to thank my twin sister for, because we never went to a cocktail party or anywhere without we were Tweedledum and Tweedledee. So it wasn't like walking into a room. There were two of us,
and twins, identical. Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
And so she's now headquarters London, and I'm headquarters Hong Kong, Asia, which has worked really, really well. Her husband and Robert were best buddies. So and
beautiful.
I don't know whether I believe in everything. I'm open-minded spiritually in every way. But isn't it extraordinary? Gilly and I, of course, being identical twins, were born on the same day. But isn't it extraordinary that our husbands were born within one day of each other? So you have to think with mythology and Chinese feng shui.
Yes.
So here we were. I think we're two cockerels married to two dragons. But we were so lucky.
Wow, how beautiful!
We had two.
You must have made striking couples,
We were quite a force.
Are there any photographs
of Gilly and I? Yes.
Yeah, no, together with your husband.
Oh yes.
Lovely.
Many. Then so my sister had two boys, and we had two girls, and so they were brought up as brothers and sisters, which is great. Robert always hankered after. He's a bit of a francophile. He's a very good cook, and when he was at boarding school, he started collecting wine. So he had I remember we'd possibly go to a very inexpensive restaurant in Chelsea or somewhere, but he introduced us to fine dining. We were the buffet, and he was the fine dining, and so that was a lot of fun. But as the children grew up,
were the children born in England?
Our eldest was born in England, and our youngest was born in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And yes, and but going back to saying about, I'm sorry to go back, but going back to, I was a mother, but I also had some very interesting opportunities, because I was first asked if I would help TVB. So, actually, when I think about what I've done, it's, and it's only talking to someone like yourself who opens the book.
Wonderful.
Because I did the first, I organised the first Miss Hong Kong. I had no idea. But I had reasonably good taste. And I've done a lot of things. I helped with the refugees when they came. With
Vietnamese, yes.
So I helped start the retreats. And then, but my mother-in-law was really responsible, because while we were living in before we moved to Deepwater Bay, my mother-in-law had heard, Chinese whispers, had heard that I was cleaning the bath. Now, I was brought up, even though we had a lot of staff in the house, I was brought up to British Airways, my sister and I would give her chores to do. We'd have to do the staircase, which took us forever, but anyway, we had to do the dustpan and brush. And so we were always given chores in the house. And so I was always used to leaving the bathroom the way I found it. But my mother-in-law beckoned me and said, your duty, at that time they had 9 staff in the house. That was before everything sort of had to the size down. And so she said, your job is not we have plenty of help, is to clean the house. You have to go out and serve the community. And I think that was the most important thing that ever happened to me. Because immediately I thought, well, here's little me, I don't speak Cantonese. Robert's at work every day. I was trying to learn. I was hopeless, absolutely stone deaf with Cantonese language. So I tried. But interestingly, that was the time when I started to look to see how I could be of help. And I started at the Duchess of Kent Children's Hospital, where I worked for them for 25 years. And that taught me a lot too, because here were children who, with spinal bifida, Professor Hodgson invented a new way of treating. They would have to be on their backs in an iron lung. And he globally was the first, Hong Kong should be proud, although he's British, but still, he did the halo pelvic operation, which meant that they put a metal halo, which they drilled. It sounds awful, but actually it never seemed to bleed or never seemed to hurt them. So they had a metal halo over their heads and one round their hips. And then they had 4 strands. And I can assure you, once they got up, they were playing football. The courage.
Wow.
The courage of these young people.
And that was pioneered here in Hong Kong?
That was pioneered here.
Wonderful.
So then, I did a series of different things. I started an interior decorating company with Nellie and Kenneth Ford. It was called Product Design in the Princess Building.
So what year would this be now?
That would be, the children were young, but the 1980s.
So the Princess Building would have been fairly new back then, right?
Yes, we were on the mezzanine floor, and we made lacquer furniture. We made lacquer furniture to really show off the things we were selling in the shop. Kenneth was a very skilled architect and designer, and so he had so we all had our input. And then that went on to lead us to do budget decorating, because at that time the expats came and they were given a lump sum of money. I've always been an inquisitor of antiques, so funnily enough, Hollywood Road, this area was very much my stomping ground, and I picked things up. And then with the old family house, we had masses of, tables and Chinese chairs, and when we started the interior decorating, we would say to the American couple or the young couple coming into Hong Kong, use this to buy 1 or 2 antique pieces, which were very inexpensive and easily available. Buy lacquer chests to go on your bedside tables, and then, because every year it would depreciate, and then they could take it home with them when they left to go back to America or wherever. So that was fun, because it allowed us, and we had a contractor who made lacquer furniture for us. So
trade was good?
So yes. It was fun. I did that for a few years, but then I found that we went to Bangkok to live for a couple of years. Robert was at that time working for AIA Insurance. Now that was fantastic. That was such an opening, eye opener to me, living in Bangkok.
1980s.
In the 80s. Amazing. And we made lots of friends. I fell in love with Thailand.
I wonder if we crossed paths. I was there in 87.
I'm sure.
And I lived there from 87 on and off through till 1992. So it was my playgrounds were the latter years, so 1989, 1991, 92. Bangkok was my playground. It was a wonderful city.
It was wonderful, and you could go to Chiang Mai, and you could go to Ho Chi Minh and the islands.
Down to the islands, and
I remember going for the first time down to Pattaya. Now Pattaya now is considered
seedy.
spoiled and seedy. But when I arrived, we walked. First of all, there was only a dirt track. Secondly, so we were lucky enough to find a car. We went to the long beach. We walked out onto the beach. And Robert said, there are elephants on the beach. Actually, they weren't elephants. They were the markings of buffalo. But still, it was totally and utterly
exotic, wasn't it? Yes.
pristine, and it was beautiful. So, in the latter years, we bought a property in Phuket. So about 10 years ago, we again never intended to. But we bought a property, we were sailing, diving in the Similon Islands. And we landed on a beach. And you know how these things happen. It was deserted, just like the early days. This long beach called Mai Tai Beach. And from behind a coconut tree came this gentleman who spoke impeccable English. It turned out he was a golf pro, and he was Filipino, to a rather fat cat who came out behind him, who was Thai. And he said, "Oh, Kun Dusit is looking at this land because his son is getting married, and so he wants to put 10 houses here." So, like every Chinese gentleman, Robert produced out of his swimming shorts a card.
Waterproof.
Waterproof, of course. He produced his card, and we swapped name addresses. And 3 months later, he'd put an auction on the land, and it took 5 years, but we built, 4 villas with friends. Not as a business deal, but just to go back to our beloved Thailand. And yes, today it's still pretty unspoiled. 10 years later.
Same house.
Same house.
But turned out to be quite an investment then.
Well, it was.
Yes.
Because like anything else I always warn anyone, it came out to be, of course they all said, this is going to be this is not going to be expensive. You can do it within this budget. But it took twice as long and twice as much money. But we've had a lot of fun with it.
Very familiar with that. That's what happens when we open cafes, or you have a budget, it goes over budget, doubles, triples, and anyway.
It's a headache. So yes, so we have been very blessed. So I don't know how long we can hold on to our property, because over the years we've bought and sold, and we sold our house in Chung Kok and couldn't get back in the market. Everything escalated so fast. I'm often asked, the big breakthrough was when a doctor said to me, "What would you do if we offered you a space in the hospital?" And that was when Prince of Wales was being, part of the oncology unit was being built, thanks to Li Ka-shing. And I didn't have to think. So I often think sometimes someone's speaking through me. But I said I'd start a cancer patients resource center. Well, as it happened, the building wasn't built. And in the meantime, Queen Mary Hospital here heard about it. And so they were the first one. So now I'm proud to say we have one in every hospital. But I realized that when I started 30 years ago, this is our 30th year. And I realized then that
You started in 87 or 88?
87.
87.
And is that 30 years?
It depends on the date. May well be 31 this year.
I go to the financial year.
Right.
So it's till
okay.
April.
Yes.
So we till April.
30 years. What a lovely number, 30. Yes.
anyway, I think to myself that the demographics of the people that we were very much grassroots, very financially challenged, and also the age group was around 65 to 70. So now, today, the average age is around 48, 50.
Getting younger and younger.
Very young. Now, I like to think positively always. And I like to think that people are more aware of cancer. Screening is available, and they are coming forward early to be screened, so that the cases are being caught early and treated. And so today, our big challenge is survivorship, because we have in our centres we have about, as I said, 23,000 clients, and I realised that about 3 years ago that a lot of our clients, being so young, want to be proactive in their healing. So we started the wellness stream. So we had about 36 people coming a week. Today we have over 2,000 a week.
I want to ask you a bit about your role as a woman in supposedly a man's world, although I disagree with that. I think we're living in a woman's world, if anything, but the qualities of the feminine, compassion and caring and cooperation rather than competition. And I mean, these are tools that you must be using all the time.
Well, they are. I mean, I think that it's interesting. I think you remember Maureen Chen.
Yes.
Very well. She's with Raj Yoga. When I first started, I read books and looked at what I should be doing with the support group. We met at the Mariners Club, and it said meditation. And I remember calling her, and she said, yes, and she sounded a real Aussie. And so I thought I was talking, and I didn't expect to have someone walk in the room with a long plait and in white robes. But we built a very close relationship, and she taught me a tremendous amount. For me, that first meeting with her was like the steam in a shower, and suddenly you wipe the steam away and you see clearly. And that was a revelation for me. It's all about love. It's all about love. It's all about brothers and sisters and equality. This is so important to understand. And I think that I feed on courage, the courage of the people that we, and the positive nature in which they address their plight. Today we have a drug fund, we have a hardship fund. I sign hardship every day. But for me, I was asked once to describe the personality of the Cancer Fund, and I did. I must say, I did think of it as very feminine. It's a mother figure. It's a mother figure which is all-encompassing.
Yes.
There is nothing that we won't look at. There's no case that we won't help. And as far as we do get a lot of overseas people who ask us for help, there are ways in which we can help, which we have outreach programs in China. My two special groups, and I have no favorites, but they're quite remarkable. One of them is the New Voice. Now the prognosis of a laryngectomy is very good. The reality is they lose the use of their voice, so they lose the ability to speak until they're trained. And so we train them. So we have a special center. And we go into China, and I've seen people who've been unable to speak for 15 years, and they speak.
Wow.
And it's as simple, Taiwan, it's as simple as a large straw, like a McDonald's straw, which costs very little. We can teach them to speak again.
Amazing.
So, yes, I think that we see miracles happen. And the other group that we have as a centre for special needs is the stoma group. And I remember a gentleman who came to see me and he said, I haven't been out for 15 years. He again hadn't been out or something like that. And he said, I come to see you because we need your help. And I had no money, and I was just at the beginning of when I started. And what was incredible was that he said that he felt the stigma of carrying a stoma bag, which is where you have to either bow or urine. You carry the bag with you. So he didn't feel comfortable about going out. So I thought to myself, I had no money. So I thought, well, how am I going to do this? You know, and this was a big ask. I didn't quite know. And so I started taking them to Ocean Park. Once they got to Ocean Park, they forgot they had a stoma bag. They, you know, and their mind.
These older or younger? Older or younger?
The majority of them. My housekeeper also has a stoma bag.
Right.
So, and it's quite. So we started a centre to help to manage the stoma and to take the stigma away. Now they're a feisty lot. They really are. So I didn't answer your question. You see, I get carried away.
Well, there's so much to say, isn't there? Final words on this little breakfast we're having?
No, I'm just very grateful. We've been friends for a long, long time.
Yes.
Many years.
Yes.
I can't even think how far. It must be.
Well, you were a regular back in Life Cafe, right?
Yes,
when
absolutely.
you know every day you'd come in for your soup and your dal,
absolutely.
and you know.
And you know, I feel very blessed. And
Indeed.
long may those wishes come true. And you know, I am hoping. I mean, I'm always recruiting because we're expanding so fast. In the last 18 months, we opened 3 centres.
Amazing.
And the centre in Kwai Chung, 7,000 square feet. So it's huge. It has, and we do a lot with diet, a lot of juicing. So you must come and see.
I'd love
You'd
to,
be
yes.
you'd be very
Yes,
interested. We'd love you to talk to. I have someone who used to be with the Kaduri farm and now they work for me. Diet is very, very important, and especially from the caregiver's point of view, because they feel so helpless. So diet is really, really important. I had runner beans for breakfast, so I had a vegan breakfast.
This morning.
Yes. So I'm moving that way.
Yes.
A lot of my colleagues are vegetarian, and I'm moving that way.
Absolutely. There's a huge move, and our customers are getting younger and younger.
Yes.
A lot of teenagers are not going just vegetarian, but going one step further, vegans.
Yes, that is.
And these are teenagers. These are, they're walking in wearing t-shirts saying, I'm vegan and I'm proud, at such a young age. And a lot of them are changing their lifestyles, changing their diets, not just for their own health, because they're young and healthy, but primarily for the environment, for the sake of our planet. Because we know the eco-footprint of the production of meat, fish and dairy is mega. It's by far the largest. And these youngsters who are inheriting the planet, if you like, they're going to be living on this planet for the next 50, 60 years. They're going, whoa, wait a minute, I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. So one thing I can do is change my diet. And this is why we've been championing, this is a sentence on your cookie.
Oh, here we are.
Diet change, not climate change. It's been so important for us. It's change your diet, but don't change the climate, It's global warming.
Well, I'm really pleased to find that the TVB have been putting on a program. I think it's every week, and it's been all about the way in which sustaining and farming.
Yes.
It's got to stop.
Yes.
Fish farming, the pollutants. It's really
Yes.
heavy metals that are.
And we're becoming more and more aware of the source of a lot of global warming and the climate change. It's coming from our diets. It's coming from our choice of food. And of course, food is so intimate to us. It's almost like the last bastion. It's like,
Especially in Hong Kong.
don't tell me what to eat now, please, don't. But it's a fact that our source of food and where our food comes from, at what cost, at what expense, is a big game changer.
Well, my office is above Marks and Spencer's, and I'm there. And
You must have been so happy when they opened there,
yes.
but
Well, it's affordable, and and you know that the chemicals aren't in the food.
yes,
And it's sad because my great joy in Hong Kong is to, when I'm having a bad day, and I have clients who sadly, come to the end of their treatment. Sometimes we lose some of our clients. And so, if I'm having a bit of a blue day, I will wander into Gough Street, into the market, and then, I'll chitty chat because I really know them all very well. But I've stopped, I want to support the local markets. But, I draw a line at buying, meats from China because, I feel that there's so many chemicals in the food. And organic food now is readily available.
Yes, everywhere.
And I'm really pleased that all the big supermarkets are now selling
absolutely.
organic food.
It's becoming the norm to a certain extent.
Yes.
And it will continue to grow. And, with the youngsters now coming in, the entrepreneurs and the millennials, and a lot of them moving in that direction. So there is hope. There is a lot of hope.
Well, even our senior clients, we take them out to the organic farms. One of the things we do for recreation, we take them out to the organic farms in the new territories, and they love it. They absolutely love it. And we have regular deliveries which they can buy. Obviously we subsidise, but regular deliveries of organic vegetables and food. It is obviously, a cultural thing. But basically, Chinese food, the essence of Chinese food is very healthy. They do all these soups, they do all these things, and very many of them are with the almonds and with mushrooms. So we encourage that.
Yes.
But there's still a little way to go because everyone likes their Peking duck. But I'm a little bit more careful these days.
Yes. Well, wonderful.
Is that all right?
Absolutely,
Good,
wonderful. So, Sally, it's been a pleasure having you for breakfast.
Oh, no, I'm thrilled.